Just because an individual believes that he don't think there's probable cause, that's his opinion. Well, I'll state it this way. She felt the same way maybe Detective Barron felt, but there might not be enough PC there, but based on the information that I knew from previous cases being reported, I felt as the supervisor, there was enough to obtain a search warrant.
Okay. Why? So you could have written the search warrant.
I could have, but I'm their supervisor, and the ones that I supervise can write the search warrant.
In an affidavit for probable cause, the officer testifies under penalty of perjury that he believes that probable cause exists.
I don't understand where probable cause come in a search warrant. Based on the search warrant that we do, we put in facts or elements of things that we obtain in an investigation to get into a vehicle or get into a building. I don't understand where probable cause come into the effect of all that.
You don't understand that in order to obtain a search warrant, a police department needs probable cause, both that a crime has occurred and that the person or place to be searched has evidence of the crime?
Fraction of your life to wander free, but losing everything is like the sun going down on me. Don't let the sun go down on me. Although I search myself, there's always someone else I see. I just allow a fragment of your life to wander free, but losing everything is like the sun going down on me.
We will continue with the next witness.
Your Honor, Joy Phillips would call Sargeant Roundtree.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give here will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming this afternoon, Sergeant. Could you state your full name for the record?
Brandon Keith Roundtree.
And how are you employed, sir?
I'm a sergeant of the Criminal Investigation Bureau for Juvenile and Sex Crimes. Been employed for 15 years.
Employed where?
Elkhart City Police Department.
Sir, I'd like to take you to July 12th, 2022. Did you participate in an investigation of a potential burglary at the Bees 3 building at 1125 West Beardsley in Elkhart?
Yes.
At some point in the course of that investigation, did you decide that it would be helpful to have a search warrant for the interior, for the trunk of a gold Cadillac?
Talking about the day of the incident or a couple of days after?
Well, sir, you tell me. On that day, did you want a search warrant?
On the day of the incident, I was clearing a call regarding a runaway. I received a telephone call from Joy Phillips. She was kind of upset. She just had a telephone conversation with Sergeant Young. Her initial response was at first, do we assist on search warrants? And I stated to her, do we do search warrants? And I said, no, we assist uniforms with search warrants. She then proceeded to provide the details of what the conversation of her and Sergeant Young had over the telephone, at which she indicated that 2 vehicles got in a vehicle pursuit, at which from 1125 West Beardsley.
Sir, could I interrupt you? My question was simply, did you want a search? Did you
Not that
want
day,
a search
sir.
warrant?
It wasn't about, not that day. It was a couple days later, so that's why I'm saying please be specific on the days.
Okay. But at some point, you decided that you would like to have a search warrant to obtain the contents of the trunk of the gold Cadillac. Is that correct?
Based off the content and the material that was in the vehicle during the course of the investigation between the 2 days, yes, I, as a supervisor, felt there was enough to obtain the search warrant on the vehicle.
Okay. Now, Joy Phillips was not the only person that you asked to do a search warrant, was she?
Yes, I think it was on, see, the incident happened on the 12th. I think 2 days later, I had a conversation with Captain Whitmire, at which he felt that if we would have responded initially on the day of the incident, that we would have had the search warrant completed on that vehicle on that day during that course of that time of the investigation, but he felt that we dropped the ball. So I went and asked Ronnie Barron to do the search warrant on the vehicle.
And just to be clear, did you ask Ronnie Barron to do the search warrant, or did you order Ronnie Barron to do the search warrant?
I pretty much ordered him to do it.
He didn't write the search warrant, did he?
No, eventually he didn't have to write the search warrant.
What was Detective Barron's response to you after you ordered him to write the search warrant?
Well, he agreed to do it. He wasn't very happy about it because he didn't know all details to the case.
And what did you, what was your reaction to the fact that Detective Barron was unhappy about having to write the search warrant?
I told him to do it and I'll assist him with it.
But he didn't write it, did he?
Eventually, later on down the line in that day, no, he didn't have to write it.
And you also talked to Detective Clays about writing the search warrant, didn't you?
Detective Clays was working on, him and Rafino were working on some cell phones, search warrants for some cell phones that had nothing to do with this incident.
But you consulted Detective Clays on this, on the search warrant for the gold Cadillac, didn't you?
As investigators, yes, we do talk about cases and get other opinions.
Okay. And what did Detective Clays tell you about the search warrant?
I do not recall our conversation. I felt as a supervisor that I had enough evidence there to obtain a search warrant.
Right. If I were to tell you that Detective Clays states in his interview with Internal Affairs that he responded to you that in his professional opinion there was not sufficient facts to establish probable cause to write the search warrant at the time you asked him, would you disagree with that?
I wouldn't say I disagree with that. It all depends on what information Detective Clays obtained at that time to come up with his conclusion.
And Detective Clays did not, in fact, write the search warrant, did he?
Detective Clays was never asked to write the search warrant.
Did he write the one for the cell phone?
That, I don't know where the course of that investigation is at this moment.
Do you know if if Detective Clays wrote a search warrant for the cell phone?
You repeated the same question. I just advised I don't know where that is at. I don't know where the status of that is at in that investigation.
Now, you also asked Detective Barron to write the search warrant, didn't you?
Or
The interior of the gold Cadillac.
Yes, Ronnie did agree to write the search warrant. At one point, Ronnie started to write the search warrant, but due to the fact that I knew the individual who the vehicle belonged to, myself and Captain Whitmire decided to go out to the apartment to get consent to search the vehicle that way without a search warrant.
And that was after everyone else declined to write the search warrant.
No, that is not true. Ronnie Barron was working on that search warrant when me and Captain Whitmire went out to the apartment.
Okay. So Barron told you that there wasn't sufficient information yet to establish probable cause to justify a search warrant.
What day are you talking about? Because this was 2 days later. The next day after the incident, Joy Phillips was going to each detective, giving her version of what she thought there wasn't sufficient information there to obtain the search warrant. So if he went based off of her statement, yeah, I could see him saying there wasn't enough there. Right. But at that time, Detective Barron felt like there wasn't enough there. But like I told him, if you take the time and sit down, I can walk you through it. Right. And that's why he agreed to do it.
On July 14th, which would be 2 days after the suspected burglary, Detective Barron told you that he did not believe that there were sufficient facts to establish probable cause for that search warrant, didn't he?
Yeah, there was still debate going back and forth, but, detectives at the time, like I stated, they can have their own conclusion on what they felt, but there's been, I say at that time, this was probably the third or fourth incident of that established building being burglarized. Mm-hmm. So there was more information that I knew about it than what Ronnie did. Oh, Detective Barron, stop saying his first name, I'm sorry.
There are a lot of titles for people in this hearing. Sergeant, so on July 14th, Detective Barron told you that as of that date, he did not believe that sufficient facts existed to establish probable cause for the search warrant. Isn't that correct?
I believe that's inaccurate because even though if he felt like he didn't believe there was not enough there to obtain the search warrant, I assume that Detective Barron wouldn't have started the search warrant.
Okay. Well, he didn't complete it either.
No, because I got a consent of the search form signed by the owners of the vehicle, so we didn't need a search warrant.
Okay. But on that day, Detective Barron told you that he didn't think you had probable cause. I mean, that's true, isn't it?
Just because an individual believes that he don't think there's probable cause, that's his opinion.
Of course, but that was his considered judgment as a police officer and as a detective.
Yeah, I mean, all police officers and detectives debate.
Okay. And that was the same day, July 14th, that you asked or ordered Joy Phillips to write the search warrant, isn't it?
Yeah, I asked her to write the search warrant.
Did you ask her or did you order her?
I asked her to write the search warrant, and she said, no, it's worth a write-up.
Right. Was that... Now, you asked Joy Phillips to write that more than once, didn't you?
Yes, because myself and Captain Whitmire agreed that due to that she was primary and Detective Ping was secondary, it should be their responsibility to do the search warrant. If we would have responded to the scene like we were supposed to in assisted uniform that day, based off of all the information that we obtained while we assessed the scene, we probably would have obtained a search warrant that day. So due to the fact that we felt like we dropped the ball, we felt like primary and secondary should be the ones to do it.
Okay. So the comment you referenced earlier about it's worth the write-up, that's something Joy Phillips said to you the second time you asked her or ordered her to write the search warrant, isn't it?
It possibly could be the second time if I do recall, but that was her expression. Okay. So,
in fact, the first time you asked or ordered Joy Phillips to write the search warrant, she told you that she didn't think that probable cause existed to justify the search warrant.
She stated twice that there wasn't. Both times she stated she didn't felt like there was PC to do the search warrant.
And she gave you an explanation that she didn't think that there were sufficient facts connecting the trunk of the gold Cadillac to an alleged burglary at the Bees 3 building.
Just like, well, I'll state it this way. She felt the same way maybe Detective Barron felt about there might not be enough PC there, but based on the information that I knew from previous cases being reported, I felt as the supervisor there was enough to obtain a search warrant.
Okay. Why? So you could have written the search warrant.
I could have, but I'm their supervisor, and the ones that I supervise can write the search warrant.
Okay. To obtain a search warrant, a police officer has to write out a sworn statement in which he states not only the substantive facts of the incident, but a conclusion, in which the officer states, "I believe that there's probable cause that these facts constitute probable cause to believe that a crime has been committed." Doesn't he?
State that again.
When an officer writes an affidavit for probable cause, he not only describes the facts, but he attests that these facts lead to probable cause that a crime has been committed, or that the subject of the search will have evidence of the crime.
Yeah, that's part of the reason to get the search warrant is that we believe that whatever we're going at has evidence that supports that crime.
Okay.
Sometimes search warrants get denied, or sometimes search warrants get approved. It goes through a process. It goes to an attorney. From the attorney, it goes to the judge to sign off on it to see if the elements support it. If it doesn't support it, guess what? The search warrant gets denied.
But at the bottom of the search warrant, there's an attestation where the officer states, under penalty of perjury, I believe not only that these supporting facts are the facts of the case, but that these constitute probable cause that a crime is committed and that the person to be searched or the place to be searched contains evidence of the crime. So the officer is attesting that he or she believes that there is probable cause. Isn't that true?
State that again, sir.
In an affidavit for probable cause, the officer testifies under penalty of perjury that he believes that probable cause exists.
I don't understand where probable cause come in a search warrant. Based on the search warrant that we do, we put in facts or elements of things that we obtain in an investigation to get into a vehicle or get into a building. I don't understand where probable cause come into the effect of all that.
You don't understand that in order to obtain a search warrant, a police department needs probable cause, both that a crime has occurred and that the person or place to be searched has evidence of the crime?
All right, maybe I have a misunderstanding of how you are speaking things, because it seems like you kind of go around. Yes, you have to have probable cause of a crime being committed, but during the course of having that probable cause, you might have to obtain a search warrant to get into a suitcase, or maybe get into a vehicle, or maybe you might need a search warrant to go into a residence. But you have to have facts to support that to go into that building or vehicle or suitcase. Is that where you're going with it?
And sir, this isn't a trick question. I'm simply asking, when an officer signs an affidavit for probable cause, doesn't he attest that probable cause exists?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So a police officer who doesn't believe that probable cause exists, and in fact, is come to the conclusion that based on the facts known to date, probable cause does not exist. If that officer were to sign an affidavit for probable cause, he would be committing perjury.
Definitely, yeah, how you put it, but that's, like I said, that's based on the officer's own opinion, if they believe that there's not a PC there.
So how many detectives did you ask at some point to write the search warrant for the gold Cadillac?
3.
And none of them wrote it.
Like I stated, during the course when Detective Barron started writing the search warrant, myself and Captain Whitmire went to the apartment of the individual, and we got a consent to search form signed, at which, at that time, we did not need to obtain the search warrant.
But Joy Phillips was not the only person who declined to write that search warrant, was she?
To my knowledge, Detective Barron agreed to write it. Detective Payne agreed to write it. Detective Phillips is the one that chose not to write it. And let me elaborate on that. Detective Payne's the original first individual that decided that he would write the search warrant. Due to the fact that Detective Barron felt bad for Detective Payne because he had an interview later on that day that he had to do, so he didn't have enough time. So Detective Barron was being a good co-worker and decided to start the search warrant for Detective Payne. But like I stated, due to the fact that we got a consent to search form, we did not need a search warrant.
How long does it take to write a search warrant?
It depends.
Detective Clays told you that he didn't think probable cause existed for that search warrant based on the facts known at that time, didn't he?
Once again, sir, we're going based off an individual officer's opinion that probably doesn't have all the information regarding that investigation. So yes, he can believe that there's not enough PC, but he probably didn't have all the factual information regarding that investigation.
And Detective Barron told you that there wasn't probable cause.
Detective Barron did not have knowledge of the investigation, but as I stated before, I advised Detective Barron that I would assist him with the search warrant to give him the information due to the fact that I was the sergeant that responded on the scene and was able to obtain information. And 2, I was the one that observed, like I said, this was probably like the 3rd incident that we had from that address that I had knowledge of it. Detective Janice was the original investigator that was looking into that address from the past 2 incidents that we had.
And Detective Phillips told you that there wasn't probable cause at the time you asked her.
Once again, that's an officer's opinion. She felt that there was enough PC. That's her opinion. But like I stated, Detective Phillips probably didn't have all the factual information that I had in regards to obtaining a search warrant. If she would have cooperated with me, she probably would have been able to obtain that information.
So 3 detectives were asked at some point to write the search warrant and told you that there wasn't probable cause, but only Detective Phillips was disciplined.
Sir, that's an inaccurate statement. Like I stated, Detective Payne agreed to write the search warrant. Detective Barron assisted Detective Payne with the search warrant. Detective Phillips is the one who stated no.
Did you give Detective Phillips the opportunity to write it later after more information was uncovered?
Sir, this was 2 days later. I was battling and trying to find an individual that'd be willing to type the search warrant, at which, like I stated, Detective Barron and Detective Payne agreed to do it. It was mine and Captain Whitmire's decision to go out there and make contact with the victim due to the fact that I had a relationship with the individual. And like I stated, at that time, we was able to obtain a consent to search form that was signed by the victim and his girlfriend. So we did not need the search warrant. The search warrant is irrelevant after the consent search form got signed.
My question is simply, did you give Joy Phillips the opportunity to investigate further and perhaps answer fill in some of the blanks that she thought were missing in probable cause?
I think 2 days is sufficient, but when it comes to on-call CID, just because you get called in to assist in an investigation doesn't technically mean you get assigned that case.
Just reiterate, if Detective Barron testified to IA that he told you there wasn't sufficient probable cause, would he be mistaken?
No, because Detective Barron did feel that there was not enough PC there to type the search warrant. I did not say that he felt there was enough. He did state that to me, but he still agreed to do the search warrant.
I believe you testified earlier that ultimately the search warrant was unnecessary because the owner consented to the search.
Yes, sir.
Was the person who consented, Mr. Grant, in fact the owner of the Cadillac?
Yes, I actually know Mr. Grant. Mr. Grant is one of the young boys that I've mentored and talked to through the Elkhart Community Schools. He stated that that was his vehicle. He just purchased it not too long ago and hasn't took the time to get it registered.
Did you have proof that he's the registered owner?
He might have had a bill of sale or something inside the vehicle, but on the back end, the vehicle was not registered as stolen. People, I don't recall who, but somebody made contact of the old registered B&V return through NCIC IDAX, and they stated that they didn't own the vehicle no more. So the information that he provided, I had good belief that that was his vehicle.
But you discovered that he was not the registered owner.
He hadn't had time to get the vehicle registered through the BMV. It was the person-to-person purchase. It didn't go through a dealership.
Did you know if Mr. Grant had insurance on the car?
I wasn't concerned about the insurance on the vehicle at that time, sir.
If there's a report that a female owned or had insurance on the car, would that be accurate?
I cannot recall that.
Why was it reported that the owner lives in Indianapolis?
That was the last registered owner. Once again, Mr. Grant advised me that he just purchased the vehicle.
When Detective Phillips told you that she thought that writing a search warrant based on the information available at that time would be illegal or unethical, how did you respond to her?
That's her opinion. I do not recall the conversation, but that's her opinion. I didn't respond to her in a negative, belligerent way, but like I said, detectives and officer expressed how they feel about doing something. She felt there wasn't enough PC, and she expressed it. There's no wrong answer to that.
Did you question why she believed that the search warrant would violate the Fourth Amendment?
Restate that again?
Did you ask her, why do you think writing the search amendment would violate the Fourth Amendment?
I never asked her that. I was trying to provide the facts of the investigation and the reason why we do have enough there to obtain the search warrant, but she kept rebutting against me and refused to do it.
You mentioned that you had a prior history with the driver of the Cadillac. What was that history?
Just me being an Elkhart native, working in the community. I know Tristan Grant from the Elkhart Community Schools. I used to work in the schools as a security officer, also a coach for the Elkhart community.
Didn't he also crash into your squad car?
Yeah.
Is there a policy on when reports must be written?
When it comes to back in the Detective Bureau, investigations can take 3 to 6 months. I'll back that up. For like juvenile cases, sometimes it could take less than 30 days. But with adult investigation, with any investigation, it can go 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, 9 to 12 months. I mean, there is no actual timetable when it comes to documentation and investigation. You got some guys back in the Detective Bureau that like to transcribe their stuff, and getting them transcribed, or you're trying to transcribe stuff word for word, it takes a long time to do such thing.
When it takes a long time to prepare a report, aren't you supposed to submit an IP, an investigative progress?
Yes.
You do that with regards to the Bees 3 investigation?
Oh, with regards to Bees, you talking about the Bees 3 investigation? Yeah, I did my IMVP and my supplement to the case. I believe it was roughly around October, but the evidence and everything with the consent to search form, all the thing that was pertinent to that investigation was submitted into our evidence the next following day on the 15th. Given the fact that I had the evidence vouchers with the outline of the evidence, I felt that I can do my supplement to that case on a later date.
Why did you date your report for July 14th, 2022?
Because that was the day of the incident when it happened, sir. That's the day that when we conducted the search of the vehicle.
Okay.
That's why it's time-stamped on that form on the very bottom that has my initial Roundbra 10-5 of 2022. It doesn't say July 14th.
I'm going to, this is part of Exhibit 8. I'm going to show you a portion of Phillips Exhibit 8.
Yes.
Okay. Aren't those dates different? That one's July 12th, which is the date of the incident, not the date of the report.
This is Detective Yule's. This is not my stuff.
Aren't those all supplementals?
There are supplementals to the case, but where's my supplement to the case? Thank you. Like I stated, the date and time I put is 7/14 is the date of the incident. But like I stated on the very bottom of my timestamp, where we hit Control T, it will timestamp the time that we typed this narrative. It says October 5th of 2022. That is the time that I completed my supplement to that investigation. But the evidence that I collected on July 14th, which is in that narrative, you will see on the evidence voucher that it was submitted on July 15th. I did not do the supplement report to this until a later date because I had supervisory responsibilities and other investigations. So you know what? I set it aside due to the fact that I had the voucher.
You hand keyed in the time, didn't you?
Say what?
You hand keyed in the time, the timestamp.
Stated that?
You hand keyed in the date and time.
Yes, I put in 7/14, but the timestamp at the bottom is accurate. I put in 7/14, the day of the incident, when we conducted the search of that vehicle and the items that we removed from that vehicle. You want this back?
Yes,
There you go.
please. But that is not how you're trained to do it. You're not supposed to manually timestamp the date of the report. That creates the impression that you wrote it earlier than you did.
I no, actually I put the timestamp at the bottom. It never shows the time that I completed it. The top box is the date and the time of the incident. The timestamp in the narrative, which right there, that it says October 5th, is the time that I completed it.
So you did it at midnight because the time indicates 000000.
Once again, sir, that could have been a typo error, but if you look at the bottom of the time step on this one states 10/5/2022 at 16:28.
So you have no explanation of why, although the date is entered, the time is 000000.
That's inaccurate. Like I said, that could be an error. But if you look at the time step on the bottom, both supplements were completed on October 5th.
As a supervisor, don't you have some duty to ensure that the time record of a document is accurate?
Yeah, but sometimes supervisors make mistakes. There's no such thing as perfection, sir. So that's a mistake on my end. I don't have a problem holding myself accountable for that.
And you are your own supervisor, aren't you?
No, I do have two other supervisors. I have a lieutenant and I have a captain.
Well, according to the report, you're listed here as both investigator and supervisor.
Yeah, we can approve our supplements, and we approve our own supplements. Sometimes, if the sergeant sees it in the system, they'll approve it for us, or the lieutenant or captain.
Can you show us a copy of what supplements you're talking to? We're lost over here. Has any of this been entered into evidence?
They're in our exhibits 8 and 9.
Can you tell us what page on 8 and 9?
I have them now, so I apologize, but I can't see from there. I also couldn't tell you because of the redacted version you gave us. It doesn't have any names of the people who authored the supplemental, so I wasn't able to figure out who correlates with whom.
But where did you get these in?
I printed them.
Oh, so there are more documents that were stolen in violation of policy?
Well, I am a whistleblower, so.
I'll just say that Exhibits 9 and 8 and 9 do not have what they're referring to, so I don't know what they're referring to.
It's Exhibits 8 and 9,
There's
not
nothing
10.
by Roundtree in 8 or 9.
They're indicative to the report header, and that's what it states in Exhibit 8 and 9, the case number. And these have the case number on them. Just like I stated earlier, we didn't get everything in discovery.
Focus on lawyers asking questions and witnesses answering questions.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm going to resume the direct. Yeah. Sergeant, in your interview with Internal Affairs Lieutenant Rathel on December 6th, 2022, you stated that the only possible reason that Detective Phillips could have refused to write the search warrant was because, quote, she didn't know much about this and didn't give herself time to understand what was going on to obtain that information, that they could obtain a search warrant. Is that a correct quotation of your testimony?
That is accurate. Due to the lack of her cooperation, she didn't give herself enough time to obtain the information that is needed to obtain the search warrant. Yes.
So your statement implies that you did not have enough time or information at the time and would need to conduct more investigation to find evidence to lawfully write the warrant. So aren't you suggesting that, or aren't you acknowledging that Detective Phillips was right? There wasn't probable cause at the time that you asked her to write it?
Well, if I'm not cooperative and I'm being subordinate, I wouldn't have the information or the information that is needed to write a search warrant. So she wouldn't have the information because she was being uncooperative.
No. But you were ordering her to write that search warrant immediately, weren't you?
Yes, and she did not write the search warrant.
You didn't tell her, go complete the investigation, then write the search warrant. You told her to write the search warrant then and there.
Sir, it was 2 days later. I had the information. I would have assisted her with the search warrant, but due to her not cooperating with me, she made it difficult. I don't have time to go back and forth and debate with an officer when I have victims that we're trying to give them a conclusion to a possible crime that's being committed. So she stated no. I resulted to the next individual, which Detective Brandon stated yes.
So you gave her an order, and if she thought that was unethical, she had no choice but to refuse it.
That was her decision.
Yeah. And isn't that her right if she believes that the order is unethical or illegal?
Yes, but her decision came based off of not cooperating.
Sergeant, did you tell Lieutenant Rathel that you feel that Detective Phillips, that quote, Detective Phillips was dishonest about the whole entire hearing? Detective Phillips twisted the facts in the book of lies she came up with, that being dishonest and twisting fact is problematic behavior for an officer, that integrity is everything, and if you don't have integrity, you are dishonest about everything. This is not the field for you. You further, you further stated that Detective Phillips lied to you in January. Unfortunately, you didn't document it or write her up in this incident. That you told, I'm sorry, and you told Rafael that she lied and twisted facts to make the situation be favorable towards her. Once again, she twisted the facts that Sergeant Young provided to make it favorable for her side. She lied to him again. She took her own assumptions and tried to spin it in a way that didn't have enough for a search warrant, end quote. Is that an accurate recitation of what you told Lieutenant Rathel?
You bunched a lot in that statement. Can you restate what you stated again, please?
Okay, where?
This will be our exhibit number 11. It was given to us by the city. That is going to be the audio recording. The transcription is going to be on the city side. If you need that, I can get the number for you.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, you don't need to play it.
All right.
Where do you want me to start from?
You don't need to read it, sir. I just want you to see if that's your statement and that this is what you told Lieutenant Rathel.
So if we were talking about the portion when it came to the on-call, yes, I believe that Detective Phillips, her statement that she told me over the telephone was a result of her not going in the first initial conversation.
Right. I'm actually referring to when you counseled Detective Phillips in January 22.
Oh, you regarding the other call-in incident with Detective Running, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
All right. So let's be clear, I just became a sergeant September prior to that new year. You want me to elaborate on that?
Yes, please.
So that morning, I wake up at about 4 a.m. to go to the gym. I noticed on my cell phone that I had a missed call from dispatch and Runyon. I called dispatch. Dispatch advised me that they tried to contact primary on call, which is Detective Phillips, and they tried to call her twice, but she didn't pick up. They then stated that they called Detective Runyon, which Runyon was asked to come in to assist on the search warrant with Patrolman KCI Negro. During that time, I received information from Detective Phillips stating, she goes, hey, can I get a laid in because I came in with Detective Runyon to assist on the search warrant. I thought that was kind of odd at that time because when I spoke to Detective Runyon over the phone after getting off the phone with dispatch, Detective Runyon never mentioned anything about Detective Phillips coming in. So when I came into work, I asked Detective Runyon if Detective Phillips came in and assist the search warrant. He stated no, she came in towards the end when he was getting ready to leave to go home. I did not know how to handle that situation as due to the fact of me being a new supervisor. So I was waiting for, at that time, Lieutenant Tweedy, well, I don't think he was promoted at that time, maybe Sergeant or Lieutenant Tweedy at that time, or Captain Price to get into work. Captain Price showed up and I explained the situation to him. He told me to bring Detective Phillips into my office to talk about the situation, which I would, to me, would consider a counsel, but it did not constitute a write-up in RMS or benchmark.
Sir, were you aware that Detective Phillips provided to City Legal and Discovery audio of the meeting with you on January 7th, 2022?
Of her recording the conversation?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sir, I'm going to read you the accusation, and this is which is this is from the initial charges prior to the amendment, and in Exhibit 56 on page 13. On January 7th,
What are we reading, just to be clear?
Exhibit 56, page 13.
I don't, that's Vicki Becker's letter?
It's the original charge, not
The amending letter from March 27th.
the charging letter.
The original charging letter? I don't have a copy of that.
We received it from you.
Right, but we amended the charging letter, so I don't carry a copy of the original around.
Well, I'm going to read the relevant portion into the record. No, I don't think you need to display it. On January 7th, 2022, you were counseled by Sargeant Roundtree regarding telling the truth. Sargeant Roundtree reports that on January 7th, 2022, you contacted him and said you helped with a search warrant for midnight shift and came into the department and asked if you could use the call-in time to be an early workday. Sargeant Roundtree advised you that it would be okay. Once Sargeant Roundtree arrived to work, he spoke to Detective Runyon about the on-call. He asked Detective Runyon if you assisted the midnight shift. Detective Runyon stated no. Detective Runyon stated you arrived after the completion of the search warrant. Detective Runyon said that he went home when you arrived at the Elkhart Police Department. Detective Runyon stated that dispatch attempted to contact primary on-call, yourself, twice, but got no answer. Captain Price advised Sargeant Roundtree to talk or counsel you about the on-call. Sargeant Roundtree advised you that Detective Runyon stated you didn't respond to the on-call for assistance with writing a search warrant. Sargeant Roundtree advised you lying about coming in and assisting Detective Runyon on the search warrant was not acceptable. Sargeant Roundtree advised you that coming in early after missing an on-call is unacceptable. You informed Sargeant Roundtree that midnight shift had another incident in which you assisted. It was unclear what incident because it was confirmed midnight did not have another incident. You were warned about lying and not making the same mistake. Do you recall that accusation, sir?
Yes, I do recall that conversation.
Okay. Could you please play Phillips Exhibit 41?
What's up?
All right, so listen, when after speaking with, so I'm trying to figure out everything that was going on this morning.
Yeah.
Calling,
Yeah.
Bird.
I figured it out.
Hold on one second.
Go ahead.
So I know dispatch called you twice. twice and they said your
No,
phone?
they called me one time.
Okay.
They didn't call my work phone. They called my cell phone. My watch
Yeah.
was in sleep mode, and so it's next to my phone. And it's a sleep study that it's a new phone. It's a new iWatch, so I didn't know how to.
Okay.
But it like shuts my phone down where no one can contact me. And I didn't know that until I got here. So I woke up. In my phone, I see this call. I called dispatch, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, well, okay, I missed the call. Like, like, who's in charge? I don't really know. I've been working fire all night. I've been working the police side. I said, okay, what supervisors are working? So I get up, I start getting dressed, right? And I said, is Ryan like, working? Because she told me that she called Ryan. And she's like, no, he's not on. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, shoot, then, I need to talk to somebody to see what happened because they called Runyon.
Right.
I call Lee. Lee's like, Ryan's on the phone, talking to him right now. He's working on a search warrant. I said, okay, well.
What case? Case of Negro?
Oh, he didn't say who. He didn't say who he was working with. And so I'm like, well, shoot, okay. I feel horrible because it's Runyon and I'm primary. So I get up, get dressed, and I shut the door. I tell Brooks, have Runyon call me. Well, he doesn't call me. I make it all the way in here. It's about 11-minute drive. I make it in here, and I talked to Runyon in the sergeant's office, and he said that Negro was had already done the search warrant, and we were just waiting for that, and the dude didn't really have anything to say. And I said, okay. So we talked about what happened and where it was at and what the stipulations were. So I told him, I said, well, I'm here, whatever you need. And he's like, there's nothing. He's like, because I didn't even do the search warrant.
No, so that's what, so dispatch calls, so when you have, what number you have on file?
574-532-2754.
Your personal?
That's my personal cell, yeah.
All right.
But they left me a voicemail saying that they're calling my work cell, and they never called my work cell. Nope, I even show Run. I said, look, the only call I got from dispatch is DeAndre, and that was on Wednesday.
Okay.
That's all the calls. These are all my recent calls.
Okay.
So
and that's what's come to find out, and I even asked Ryan. It was a simple search warrant.
yeah,
Well, that's why he didn't bother to call you.
I know, but
So then I put two and down and said, well, and then speaking with you, I was like, all right,
I'm not gonna have him do my I'm not gonna have him do my work for me.
So
Ryan's got enough stuff going on as it is, and so being that he didn't call me back to tell me like, yo, I'm good. I'm thinking, man, I need to get in there and help my boy out.
But that's what we all know how Ryan is. He's
Yeah,
a
but
player.
right,
He's
but
not really gonna.
and I'm not gonna leave him hanging. If he's
Okay.
here, I'm here. So I felt horrible. My husband, Justin, woke up. He's like, what's going on? I said, Ryan's in, I think. I said, dispatch says they don't have him on the screen. I said, but they're on something. I said, so I'm just gonna go in. And so he was like, okay. I had no idea until I talked to Lee that it was even a kind of a converter theft and that they caught the dude and whatever. And then when I got in here, Ron was able to tell me that they had like the prints and everything. And so when I was talking to Lee, I'm like, hey, make sure, because they wanted to release the cats back to the victim because they've located the victim. And I'm like, well, make sure that we can signify that that is in fact that victim's, whatnot. And I ran the dude and checking through LP Police and he's from Granger and.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, I just feel bad.
Jay Ray also got
Called.
Paul, and you assisted with that. Wasn't you assisted with Jay Ray this morning?
I didn't see Jay Ray this morning at all.
Then you said there was another.
There was another kid yelling on the radio this morning,
yeah,
and I didn't know
that's
what in the world was going on. That was when you and I were talking on the phone. So that was Jay Ray handling that one.
I think I thought you said it was you, but maybe it was a different officer.
I don't know who it was. I don't know voices though either. What's Jay Ray's badge number?
Yeah, 383. No, you're fine. It was just because the times of it calling in, you come in because he got here at 1:37, and you got here roughly around 3.
Something, yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of explaining, but it all makes sense. And like that does happen in dispatch. I mean, I think what we'll need to do is just. I'll send an email out to everybody and say like what primary, what's the main number that you want dispatch to call you on.
And I want them to like get in contact with me.
Well,
You know what I mean, call. But I understand now.
But up there, it all depends on who you're dealing with because they'll either call you once. But maybe I'll talk with Kevin and say we get dispatch to do protocol and try to call 2 times.
Well, Run told me that dispatch told him that my main went straight to my voicemail.
Yeah.
But then they didn't even call my work cell. And I'm like, well,
Well,
what's the point of having my work cell if you're not gonna even call my work cell, right?
Right.
And so then I told Ron, I said, well, maybe they don't have the right number for my work cell.
Right.
So if you send that email out, you might want to check and see and make sure that they have the right phone number for a work cell too. But they've called me on it before. Then that last week when we had that hostage situation, they called my work cell.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, but
We
I
were
just don't. Yeah,
right.
I hope
We
you
were just
understand.
but you're good with because I told him you started your work day at 3.
I'm good whenever. You tell me. I don't even care about putting in for overtime if I need to. I'm good.
No, I told him.
I feel horrible because Ryan, you shouldn't have had to come in.
Y'all, I can understand if it was you just did it just to do it.
No.
No, I said
I would have stayed in bed.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
If you did it just to do it, that's a different. This stuff happens.
I know, but it's Ron,
And
man.
sometimes you can't control.
Like he's not. I mean, he's yesterday. Like he went to the doctor too. You know, like
Yeah.
I just, you know, like
Yeah,
of all the
yeah.
people,
Yeah,
of all the
yeah.
people, like he's not the one I wanted to have to come in for me. So.
He steps up. He does a lot
Mhm.
for a lot of people, even with his workload. But you know, he's a strong example of what I say being a team player. You know what I mean? He even told me there was no need for you to even come in.
I know. He was like,
That's why he didn't bother calling you.
I know, but I can't have him do that,
And
man.
giving who you are
Mm-mm.
to, like, no, man, this is me. I get it. So you know, you got two complete opposites, but at the end of the day, the job still got done. We still came in. You still stuck around to be here. But
I wasn't gonna go anywhere after. Like I could feel like I had kind of failed, so I was like, I just went. I told Lee and Dan, I was like, I'm here, so just call my desk. I'm gonna be doing
You
summary.
know,
So
But even at that, like I told you, I actually look at that being a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you still stuck around just in case there was anything else. But I just wanted to make sure I confirmed everything over Cap. Like, no, this is what technically happened. But the fact that you did stick around was a good. I look at that as being a good thing.
Yeah, I wasn't
Most
gonna
people
go anywhere.
Would leave and go back home. Hey, y'all give me more. I'm here.
I wasn't leaving again, only to get called back. But I'll tell you what, I was sat at my desk and I called myself, and it didn't work. It went straight to voicemail.
Your
So
department stuff.
not my personal cell
Yeah.
from my desk line. And so I told Ron, we were sitting there fiddling with it together, and I said, man, you're right. I said it went straight to my voicemail. And
Is it-
so it's off now. If you were to call my personal cell, it rings now.
Is it set because of the watch?
Yep. So I took it off my sleep study completely. So it's no longer monitoring my sleep.
So your watch automatically goes into.
9 to 5. I didn't know.
Oh, so you do that bedtime mode?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it
okay.
was supposed to be like analyzing my
Yeah,
sleep to see when
yeah,
I have
yeah.
REM and not.
Yeah, you have to shut that sleep mode on.
I did. I shut it completely down. And in fact,
So automatically put everything on the phone and want to sleep, do not disturb. You want this back?
Sergeant, did you recognize your voice on that recording?
Did you say, did I recognize my voice?
Your own voice, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you recognize Joy Phillips' voice?
Yes.
You believe that to be a recording of your conversation with Joy on January 7th, 2022?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, we would move for the admission of Exhibit 56. Excuse me, 41.
None.
41 is received.
Sergeant, where on that recording did you counsel Joy Phillips about lying?
Prior to you playing that, like I stated, the Captain Price told me to talk to her, at which I indicated that to be somewhat a counsel. A counsel you documented in RMS, she wasn't written up or reprimanded for any of that for that day.
Okay. So there's no point in that conversation where you told Joy Phillips that she had lied.
My words in that conversation was kind of muffled, but the whole purpose was that she lied about coming in and assisting Runyon, at which you can see, well, I was primary, so I felt like it was my job to come in.
In that recording, I never heard you state that Joy Phillips said something untruthful or words to that effect.
State that again.
Yeah, in that recording, I never heard you tell Joy Phillips that she stated something untruthful.
The untruth was she stated she came in and assisted Runyon. She admits in the recording that she didn't come in and assist Detective Runyon. She just felt like she was primary, so she came in.
Well, I heard on that recording, I heard Detective Phillips state that she missed the call, that she did not report to duty when she should have, and she apologized for that. But I never heard her get counseled for lying.
She didn't get counseled because it was never documented in RMS or benchmark. It was a conversation regarding her coming in and assisting on a search warrant. She didn't get disciplined or written up for the incident at all. So it's irrelevant. It was a conversation that we had in my office trying to figure out what went on. After that conversation, I actually went down the hallway to speak to Brass to see if there was another incident that day, and there wasn't another incident that day. Joy Phillips did not use that day as an early work day, but like I stated, she was not disciplined, nor was it written in RMS.
I didn't hear get counseled in any way about untruthfulness.
Because it wasn't a counsel, sir. It was a talking to. I was talking to her regarding coming in and assisting Detective Runyon.
Well,
do you see anything? Do you have anything there with me documented in her profile of me writing her up for being dishonest or lying?
Well, sir, in the original charging letter, she is accused of having lied about the time she appeared, and the charging letter also states that you counseled her about that lie.
I did talk to her about that lie. That's what that recording was.
Okay. Would you, sir? I did not hear the word lie or dishonesty or untruthfulness or any similar such word. I heard you talk to her about being late, which she acknowledges she was.
I don't. You say about her being late?
Would you?
Like, you got me confused here. I keep telling you that
Missing
was
the
not
initial call.
Missing, no, yeah, she missed the initial call, but part of that, she lied about coming in and assisting Detective Runyon. That is part of that conversation.
Did you ever use the word lie? Because I did not hear
No,
the word lie
I
in
do
that
not recall the
conversation.
full conversation, but like I said, if you listen to it, it's kind of muffled, so you can barely hear me.
So you heard the word lie and we didn't.
State that again.
So you heard the word, you heard yourself use the word lie on that conversation.
Like I said, I don't recall that full conversation, and you could barely hear me in that auto because I was muffled.
Were you aware that the city initially charged Joy Phillips with that allegation, but later withdrew it in the amended charges?
I mean, it was an incident and situation that happened, but I am not part of the process of how the city charges an individual. But I can only go based off of what I know. I didn't document it in RMS or benchmark.
Well, where did that accusation come from, if not from you?
That incident came from me. I told them about the incident, but she did not get discipline written up from me.
Sergeant, returning to the Bees 3 incident, in your testimony at the Board of Public Safety hearing, you stated that you and Captain Whitmire drove out to the owner's house, Mr. Grant's house. Is that not correct? At some point you drove out there?
Reference my earlier statement. during this, I did state that me and Captain Whitmire drove, well, he's the assistant chief, assistant chief. But at that time, Captain Whitmire and myself did go out to the apartment.
And this was after Detective Payne agreed to write the search warrant?
Yes, that was after Detective Payne and Detective Barron agreed to write the search warrant.
Well, if someone was going to write the search warrant, why did you need to go out to the car and get consent?
Because the consent search form is an affidavit at which an individual could sign off, giving us the rights to search a vehicle, which is it's better to do it because it takes less time.
But you had to drive out there. I mean, if you supposedly had all the information you needed to obtain a lawful warrant to get into the trunk of the Cadillac and the iPhone, why would you need to go drive to someone to get permission?
Because I had a relationship with the victim, I knew who the victim was. And so Whitmire asked if, well, Assistant Chief Whitmire wondered what type of relationship that I had. And I said I knew the kid. And so we went and tried to see if we can get a consent to search form signed, which we did. We practiced that on the road. We look at other options.
Didn't Detective Phillips tell you that it was a stretch to even try to get the search warrant?
Once again, that's Detective Phillips' opinion. Detectives and uniform officers have their own opinions.
But ultimately, you decided not to get it.
Yes, because I got a consent to search form signed, sir.
Were you present when Joy Phillips said that she was trying to protect the department from lawsuits?
Once again, that's her own opinion based on the facts that she believed.
Well, I'm simply asking, sir, if you heard her say it.
I do not recall that.
Sir, what day did you order Joy Phillips to write the search warrant?
I do believe that might have been, well, that had been, the incident happened on the 12th. On the 13th, I interviewed the witness. I believe that had been the 14th of July.
And when did you file your complaint against Detective Phillips?
I do not recall that. I know it was a while after because I was taking care of that.
If I told you it was July 18th, 2022, would you disagree with me?
I do not recall. If you actually have the actual complaint report, I can tell you if that's the accurate date or not. But
Well,
I do not recall the date. I knew it was a few days, maybe a few or 3 or 4 days later down the line.
Why did it take you so long to write the complaint?
Well, I felt I can deal with somebody's discipline at a later date. My main focus is serving the community and making sure the search warrant to the vehicle and everything had to be completed.
Sir, I'm going to show you Plaintiff's Exhibit 22. Sir, do you recognize Exhibit 22?
Yes, this would be my complaint and benchmark.
Did you write that? So you wrote that document?
I filled it out on the computer, yes.
Okay. At this time, we would move to admit Joy Phillips Exhibit 22.
Can someone point me to what we're talking about? So you're Exhibit 22, is that fair to say?
Yes,
My only objection would be that it's about prior discipline, but I won't object.
22 is received without objection.
Sir, did anyone help you write that?
No,
Did anyone ask you to write that?
no, I wrote it. I made a decision to write Joy. I made a decision to write Joy up the day of the incident after our interaction that we had that night in the war room of the Elkhart Police Department of CID.
Why did it take you a week to write it?
I had other obligations to take care of regarding investigations and stuff.
Sir, none of the people that you asked to write the search warrant actually wrote it, did they?
Once again, sir, I got a consent to search form signed, so no, they didn't have to write the search warrant.
But only Joy Phillips was reprimanded for it.
For the search warrant?
Or for her failure to write it.
She got reprimanded from me regarding the conversation that we had over the telephone regarding coming in and her being subordinate to me when we had the conversation in the CID war room.
She was charged with failing to do her job, wasn't she, twice? Perhaps not from a complaint from you, but that was what she was charged with, failing to do her work. Oh, actually, I believe that's listed on there.
Failure to perform a duty insubordinate and failure to perform a duty.
So only Joy Phillips was charged with failing to perform a duty.
Because Detective Phillips failed to come in when Sergeant Young requested her to come in.
Didn't Joy Phillips actually come in that day?
On my order.
Okay.
You spoke over the
Oh,
council.
I'm sorry.
What's the question? What's the answer?
So Joy Phillips did come in that day, didn't she?
Based on my order on the second call.
So she did come in.
She did come in, but she would have went in on the first initial phone call with me as she would have provided me with the accurate information.
You know how many minutes elapsed between Dustin, the first call and the second call?
I do not recall.
It was under 10 minutes, wasn't it?
Once again, I do not recall.
Doesn't it also, isn't there a note from Lieutenant Raffel that he needs more information on that, in the benchmark report?
Where's it at on this form? Recommendation, need more information. Maybe possibly at that time I read it, he probably needed me to add a little bit more detail to the write-up.
I believe it's in there twice on different dates.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I said, there might have been, I need to elaborate more detail on the write-up.
Did you ever provide that information?
Eventually, yeah, it went through and got approved.
What was it?
I do not recall.
No further questions. Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant.
Just brief. Ultimately, is it fair to say that Detective Phillips was never disciplined for refusing to write a search warrant, correct?
Correct.
And is it fair to say that Detective Phillips was not willing to learn the facts of the case so that she could write a search warrant?
Correct.
And that was the difference between her and Ronnie Barron and Detective Payne, correct?
Correct.
And Ronnie Barron and Detective Joshua Payne ultimately did begin writing the search warrant, correct?
Correct.
So Detective Phillips was the only detective who refused to write a search warrant, correct?
Correct.
I don't have any further questions.
Sergeant, you ordered Detective Phillips to write the search warrant, didn't you?
Me saying I need you to write a search warrant, yes, that would be ordering somebody to write it.
Were the exact words you used, "You will write the search warrant"?
I didn't demand her. I didn't say you will write the search warrant. I said I need you to write a search warrant because you were the primary officer on call that day.
And that was a direct order.
Yes.
And you expected her to write the search warrant immediately,
Not immediately.
or that day.
That day or the next day, how long it ever took for her to obtain the factual elements that she needed for the search warrant.
But you didn't explain to her that she could take the time she needed to investigate the case further and develop more facts establishing probable cause, did you?
Detective Phillips is a 20-year veteran officer. Detective Phillips has been back in CID longer than I have. I think Detective Phillips understood that she had an amount of time to get the information that is needed to obtain the search warrant. I'm pretty sure that Detective Phillips also understood that with me asking her to type the search warrant, that she had an ample opportunity to do what she needed to do to get the information, regardless if it was done that day or the next day. When I asked her, it wasn't meant do it right away.
You didn't explain that to her, did you?
I mean, common ground with her being a veteran, I assumed she would have known that.
You assumed, you didn't tell her.
Well, she's done many search warrants back in the Elkhart Police Department, back in CID, so it's no different. I don't understand why that situation would have been different.
You simply ordered her to write the search warrant.
Yes.
On that day.
Sir, on July 14th, I asked Detective Phillips to write a search warrant.
No further questions.
No further questions.
We call for Sergeant Roundtree.
None here.
We do not need the sergeant further.
Sergeant Roundtree, then you're free to go. Thank you very much for your testimony here today. Don't discuss your testimony with anyone other than the lawyers. And if anybody else tries to talk to you about what you've said in here, let the commission know right away, please.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.